The New World Order and editor-in-chief of Black Fox News, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on, even in the wrinkled shirt. Fuck out of here. Check this out. Tekashi 6ix9ine, Brooklyn-based rapper with the rainbow hair, Latin kid, whatever. Yo, dude actually pled guilty to 9 counts of the RICO law. Now, most would think that they gonna smoke his ass, right? He was already facing like 40-something years, so shit was kind of wild. But nevertheless, he already admitted to joining the non-trade Bloods as recent as like 2017, and actually said that he was going to, he assisted them with a murder and to increase his rank within the organization. So he already snitched. At the end of the day, niggas talk that put on a shit. He put a whole body on the set. You dig? So it's kind of fucked up, and it just showed that Insta-Clout shit. That shit is not worth it, my G. Yo, hard work, perseverance, man. Showing your ass just to get them likes or whatever, it might work, but you selling your soul, and this is exactly what that looks like. The Virginia Pilot newspaper on Friday actually released a photo that they said was of Democratic Virginia Governor Ralph Northam in blackface, standing next to a dude in a KKK hood in his motherfucking 1984 Eastern Virginia Medical School yearbook. Now, that's crazy for a few reasons, you know what I'm saying? But nevertheless, it will deal with what's up front. The Democratic governor or whatever issued an apology for it on Friday. Then on Saturday, tried to double back and say it wasn't him, but he had dressed in blackface in the past as Michael Jackson. Now, first and fucking foremost, if anybody could see Michael Jackson in 1984, he was not that. There's no fucking excuse to be in blackface talking about you, Michael Jackson, first off. And second off, it just shows how racist shit is. If they get him the fuck out of there, a new black dude, Justin Fairfax, would be the governor. So, Canadian cryptocurrency exchange company Quadriga CX actually owes its customers $190 million. Why is that, you say? Well, because their founder, actually, Gerald Cotton, he actually died last year from Crohn's disease. And the man was the only person that actually had the password to get to all of the money. And it was encrypted, and he died with the only password. So that's just like complete terrible business management on all levels of whatever fucking current situation that they got going on. So, but I also think it shows how, some things with this whole cryptocurrency shit is just real funny. So, you stay tuned, see how this manifests, or see what this changes in the world. You know what I'm saying? War, green, and the U.S. government has already said that it's going to send humanitarian aid to Venezuela. Now, this is only going to force the hand of the Venezuelan military and the presidential regime that's over there, headed by President Nicolas Maduro, who the world, definitely the European and Western world, says has been doing a terrible job as president. The Bolivar itself, the currency over there, is actually inflated ridiculously, and people want the president to be removed. So as a result, the European Union, America, they've announced a whole nother motherfucker as president. When I say America, I mean the United States of America, pardon me. But they announced a whole nother dude, Juan Guaido, as the president. So there's already a lot of tensions, but now Venezuela has to decide, are we, even though we're beefing with them, are we still going to accept their help? If people need it, we'll see what happens, man. Green War. Trump has already announced, already made claims to wanting to withdraw troops from Syria, and then he doubled down on those claims this past weekend. Despite when he did so, it was under the precedent that ISIS had been defeated, which is kind of crazy because if you can't tell already, ISIS is being used to expand American imperialism. How can ISIS be defeated already? But nevertheless, he said that out loud, and all intelligence officials are rebuking his claims. They're saying no, that America shouldn't back out, and ISIS is still a major threat. But Trump did say that he actually wants troops to stay in Iraq to essentially keep an eye on Iran. Geopolitics is kind of ill. Elizabeth Warren, who most people believe is going to run for president. This is the Massachusetts Democratic senator, and most likely is going to run for president. So she's supposed to announce it formally next week. She issued an apology to the Cherokee Nation for using her DNA test essentially to show, to grandstand against Trump and show him that she actually does have Native American heritage. After he jokingly called her Pocahontas, and he continues to mock her, saying that she's part Cherokee or has Native American in her family. He used a DNA test to prove so. A lot of people from the Cherokee Nation were enraged by this, because that's actually not the way that you determine lineage. They actually have their own ways of doing it, so they already just oversteps their whole method. Shout out to My Son, who actually aggregated a bunch of protesters, got them outside the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn, New York City, and actually was able to get them to cut on the heat and the electricity and the running water after it had been out for about a week. And a prison that was housing over 1,600 prisoners. Now, this could be considered like torturous, inhumane. These are denial of basic civil rights or whatever. Everybody knows about the polar vortex that came through the middle of the country. Of course, it hit the East Coast, and some remnants of it. So basically, it was brick as hell, and they had them in there for a week. So we definitely gotta salute our rappers. A lot of people talk shit on rappers, especially the battle rappers and the gangster rappers and all that. But it's somebody. Shaya Ben Abraham Joseph, better known to y'all as 21 Savage, actually got arrested this weekend by ICE while he was in the whip with another rapper by the name of Young Nudie or Young Nutty, of whom they ran a criminal investigation against. They swooped up 21 Savage, ran his paperwork, and realized that he's been staying in the country illegally since 2006. They say this man is from the United fucking Kingdom. He is British and came over here in 2005 on a 1-year visa, and that thing has expired, and he has been living here ever since. Now, the only thing that sounds crazy about this shit, at least to me, well, the whole thing is kind of wild, because he always talk about Atlanta's on 6 shit, whatever, but he actually caught a felony charge, and this is documented or whatever, in 2014 for marijuana possession and some other shit or whatever. So why wouldn't he have been deported then? This is real crazy. This trumps America, you know what I mean? Streets reporter of the New World Order, Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on. Tomorrow we got the State of the Union address, where the president is actually supposed to talk to the American people and let us know what's going on. Now, this happens every year. For every time we have a president, they give this speech updating us, and it seems very, very necessary. If you run a business, you want to meet with your employees to let them know like where you're headed as a company. So it very much seems necessary. The only problem is Trump is a compulsive liar. We're talking about he's lying at astronomical rates. We're talking about 35 false and misleading claims per day. We're talking con artistry, record level lying. And that's a lot for a politician, man. And a lot of people don't even want to be around for it. So you have Democrats that are sitting out. Other Democrats are going to bring people that have been affected by his policies. Stacey Abrams giving a rebuttal speech. So you should see some fire. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell was actually found taking a picture and accepting an award in front of a Confederate flag. Now, we know that government has a lot of racist ties and, is inherently racist or whatever. And there are people still to this day that don't really understand the racism behind the Confederate flag. But anybody who does any simple Google searches will see like why that's inherently racist or whatever. Not to mention you supporting the loser team. But nevertheless, he was given this award in the 1990s by the Sons of Confederate Veterans organization. And this picture had actually circulated back in 2015. It's recirculating today. It should be embarrassing to him, but I'm pretty sure it's not. So that's just to let you know what type of powers we're playing with. The craziest thing is, I don't even gotta tell you what party he's a part of. Man, signing out, we'll see what happens. Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Justin Fairfax, has denied a sex assault allegation made against him as recent as this past weekend, where a woman said that in 2004, he sexually assaulted her. Now, this black man alleges that, first off, that nothing happened. Everything was consensual. He was in a hotel room with this woman who was feeling him. And, she was feeling him. Then he got her in the telly, and they did their thing. And he even says afterwards that she wanted him to meet her parents and all of that, whatever. So, it kind of sounds kind of fishy. Another black man at the end of a sex assault allegation. Not to say that means he didn't do anything, but he did. But can't front. He sounds pretty believable at the end of the day, and for it to come out at the eve of his possible ascension into governorship, it seems kind of like too fishy, especially for it to be 15 years ago. So that's what it is. Green Wall. So the Iraq president, Barham Salih, I believe I'm saying his name right, Barham Salih. He actually spoke out against Donald Trump, talking about that they're going to use Iraq to watch Iran. He said that, you didn't ask us about this, motherfucker, and nevertheless, that goes against their constitution as far as being used on any level to work against their neighboring countries. So it's kind of ridiculous and arrogant that Trump would even say that out loud, even if that was the intent. Holmes is not really intelligent when it comes to playing war and being strategic on any level. So why some of y'all continue to support this man, I don't know, but that's the scoop on that, man. Y'all stay tuned. We'll see how this pans out. War, green, and graduation, man. So it turns out that a lot of people are catching on to the human rights violations going on against women in Saudi Arabia. 3 British Parliament officials said on a panel, where they actually concluded that that there were possibly international laws being broken by Saudi Arabians because they're not even allowing their women to drive. So women are protesting this shit, but they're being met with all types of abuses, rape, beatings, tortures, and death threats. So it's getting real crazy over there. Why our country continues to do business with them, knowing these things are happening, but yet we want to call Cuba and Venezuela and Nicaragua the troika of tyranny is beyond me. But that's what's going down. We'll see how this pans out, man. War, green, and graduate. Hey, David Malpass is somebody that Donald Trump hired to be a Treasury Department official. This guy used to work on Wall Street for Bear Stearns, and actually urged people not to panic about the market right before we had the Great Recession. Nevertheless, he was hired as Trump saw some sort of wisdom or probably some sort of connection or financial benefit to him being in the Treasury Department. Now wants to elevate this man to be the head of the World Bank. Now the World Bank, they actually pool money together from participating countries, of which there are over 100, and lend this money out to underdeveloped countries, and with caveats that allow them to supposedly be able to pay them back, but it ends up just extending how much money they owe and liberalizing their markets and allowing for other foreign entities to come in and make money off of the country. So, we'll see how the Utah State Senators actually voted against a measure that they just voted for back in November to expand Medicaid to people that are 138% of the poverty, bringing in 138% of the poverty level. Poverty level is about like 12,000, a little over 12,000 for one person, and a little over 25,000 for 4 people. So for those from the struggle, y'all know that ain't shit. And you still got people that are trying to limit Medicaid, which is essentially free healthcare for those who can't afford it and can't work for it. Limit that to being less than the poverty level. That's what they voted on. Less than 100% of the poverty level. So, and the crazy thing about it is, I don't even gotta tell you what party these people represent. Ew. Stay tuned, man. Green, war, and graduation. So Axios actually published Donald Trump's schedule, which for the past 3 months has seemed to have 60% of his scheduling time allotted to what's considered executive time, which consists of social media work, watching TV, making phone calls, and reading the news. Now, I haven't seen anything that showed, comparatively how this ranks next to other presidents, but I think it just surprised a lot of people that he spends time on social media. But we already knew that, man. He got something to say on Twitter about everybody. I personally don't think it's always him saying it, but shoot, then he'll get right up on a podium and repeat what the fuck was tweeted. So who am I to say shit about it? It's just, something to laugh at and whatever. He's a fucking joke. But, keep that in mind. Green, war, and graduation. So the Justice Department just subpoenaed Trump's inaugural committee from 2016. They want to see his financial records, the financial records of that committee, to see that if there was any connection between any foreign entities, foreign donors, and them getting access to the administration. He received 107 million in private donations, which is unusually high. It's actually twice as high as any other president has had for an inaugural committee. So a lot of fishy shit going on. As you can suspect from his past dealings, it probably is something there, you know what I'm saying? Not that way wherever there's smoke there's fire. Sometimes it's not fire, I mean, I guess, but nevertheless, he just seems kind of shady, you know. Just to me, for such a con artist, this would be child's play, pimping out the government. It's like whatever. So let's see how this pans out, man. Stay tuned. War, green, and graduate. So President Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador, the president of Mexico, has actually vowed to search for missing persons from Mexico's drug war. There's about 40,000 people that are missing, 26,000 unidentified bodies in forensic custody, and about like 1,100 unmarked graves. So, you know, shit is getting real over there. That's just something to think about, whatever. Like the drug war, a lot of people in our streets or whatever, they think they really going through it or whatever, battling. 40,000 is a lot of people. So, you know, keep that in mind. Stay tuned, man. War, green, graduation. So the Enbridge energy pipeline was actually had valves of it shut off by some activists, essentially, that caught that essentially standing up for Native Americans, because this pipeline runs through Minnesota and is running over Native American land. It's just fucked up that they actually got caught and arrested, and they're being tried for trespassing and I think property damage. But you know, they also had a Facebook page called four necessity valve turners. 4, the number 4 necessity valve turners, and that page got shut down by Facebook. So for you activists out there that's really out there, just know what you're dealing against. And I guess Big Money is trying to win in this one. So we'll see what happens, man. Green war and graduation. Now, there are reports out that are saying that 1/3 of the ice caps of the Himalayan mountains out in Asia are actually going to melt by the end of the century. Now, this seems like a far away, but this is going to have devastating effects for over 2 billion people. I mean, mind you, this is out in Asia. It's a little above India, around Nepal and all of that, whatever. But this whole mountain range, that including Hindu Kush or whatever, these are all mountain ranges with ice caps. And once these shits melt, as they gradually melt throughout the century or whatever, it's just going to cause a bunch of flooding. You know, communities are going to be destroyed. So it's going to be a slow death over the course of 100 years. Now, that 100 years might not seem long to you, but it might seem very long to you, but I'm sure you can find somebody that's like 80. I'm sure you can find 2 people that's 50 that had another 50-year-old parent or whatever. So, Streets reporter, the New World Order, editor-in-chief of Black Fox News, Bishop Grady, letting y'all know what the fuck going on. E.J. Bradford Jr. was actually shot and killed by police officers this past Thanksgiving in a mall near the Birmingham area, and actually in a place called Hoover. And Birmingham is in Alabama, for those who don't know and live under a rock. Now, this is a lot of people are outraged about it. They feel like it's a civil rights issue. There were shots fired at this mall. The surveillance video shows, and people were scattering. And when police came on the scene, E.J. Bradford, military member, was actually had his gun out and was shot and killed on the spot. He tried to run away. He tried to run towards the gunfire, actually, with his arms. And the police came in and shot him 3 times. They just assumed he was the suspect. Attorney General of Alabama determined that there was no nothing criminal done there. So it's fucked up. So the president of Eastern Virginia Medical School, Richard Holman, he actually publicly apologized for a photo of a white kid in blackface standing next to someone in the KKK hood. Actually got into their yearbook in 1984. And the craziest thing, I guess, about this story is that the photo of the person in blackface was allegedly the governor of Virginia, the Democratic governor of Virginia, Ralph Northam. Everyone's calling for his resignation. And he publicly apologized, but then, tried to come back the next day on this past Saturday and say that it actually wasn't him, but he had dressed in blackface before. The whole shit was kind of crazy, but the whole time I actually thought it was wild that something like that would end up in the yearbook in 1984. That just shows you how far removed we are not from racism. So in the monthly Vatican magazine that they have called Woman Church World, Pope Francis actually admitted that to there being sex abuse against the nuns in the church. He actually said that, they've been subject to what is considered sexual slavery. So this is the first time that anybody in the Catholic Church has ever really openly admitted that. They're definitely not a pope, but it's been known to be happening for some time now. These horny old dudes that become preachers, man, these horny old white dudes, these motherfuckers is molesting boys and they kidnapping kids and sexually assaulting their nuns and all of that. The whole system should be demolished. I feel like that's the only solution to the shit. But it's not news to us. Like, when I say us, I mean Black Fox News and my constituency. Like, we've been reported on this. You go back to World Broadcast Minute. The Taliban actually killed 50 people this past weekend in a series of attacks. Now, I'm reporting this because this just really goes against the idea that we would come into some sort of terms with the Taliban. When I say we, I'm really not talking about me because I don't condone none of this fuck shit. But the U.S. soldiers, and Trump actually said out loud that we were coming to terms with them, and the plan was to get them to actually get the Taliban to actually communicate with the Afghanistan government. So it made it seem like our presence over there had actually resulted in something positive, but clearly that's not the case. If 50 motherfuckers are getting murdered in the weekend, anybody, all y'all real niggas out there that seen at least one person die, just multiply that by 50 and you see how crazy that is. So Oscar Arias Sanchez, former Nobel Peace Prize laureate and actually the former president of Costa Rica, which is in Central America for those who don't know, actually is being charged with sexual assault by a woman who is a psychiatrist and nuclear disarmament advocate that frequently met with this man. Apparently on the business side of things, he forced himself on her in 2014, she alleges, and digitally penetrated her, fondled her without her consent, so it's real iffy out here. So that's going on, and I gotta say, all you motherfuckers with power and y'all got money and all of that, step your motherfucking game up, man. How you got all these bros out here telling on you, you know what I'm saying? Like, basically, we in the Me Too era where broads are snitching, you know what I'm saying? And I'm actually all for it if it's some real shit, though. Like, y'all stop being weirdos out there. Get your mind right and your game tight, man. Last night, they had the State of the Union address by President Trump. And, of course, it was a bunch of malarkey, as you can imagine. But I'm actually going to read something. I've never done this for a BFN report yet, but I'm going to read something that he said that just, speaks volumes. So he says, if there is going to be peace and legislation, there cannot be war and investigation. It just doesn't work that way. Well, that some fuck shit to say. Obviously, when the Justice Department is on your ass, people getting indicted left and right, and you just getting put out there looking like a criminal. Of course you would say something like that. You know who else said something like that? Richard Nixon, who said, I believe the time has come to bring that investigation and the other investigations of this matter to an end. And lo and behold, 2 weeks later, the JD actually gave them permission to look into his shit. And then 8 months later, he had to resign. Saudi Arabia has been in an arms deal with us where they've been paying big money to get U.S.-made weapons. And then they have in turn been using those weapons on people of Yemen and just bombing the fuck out of them. Honestly, it's a humanitarian crisis, like by no exaggeration. But nevertheless, now it comes out, CNN reported that these weapons have also been falling into the hands of Al-Qaeda, which completely violates the terms of the deal that the U.S. has with Saudi Arabia. So it's an alarming thing, and it just makes you wonder, why the fuck are we still dealing with Saudi Arabia? It has to be something else there. You know what I mean? I have my, it's other conclusions that could be made out there, but I'm just gonna report that piece to y'all. You know what I mean? Signing out, War Green and graduation. over the course of the weekend, there was a shipwreck along the coast of the Bahamas. And it turns out that these were Haitian migrants that were leaving Haiti. And, a lot are missing. It's actually, the death toll so far has risen to 29. And 18 people have survived so far. So there's still people out there that you don't know if they're dead or alive. So, yeah, I mean, keep the Haitians in your prayers, man. And that just show you what type of desperate times we are in. Keep all that in mind, signing out. War, Green, and Graduation. R. Kelly is actually going back on tour. He's going on tour in New Zealand, in Australia, and in Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka, however you pronounce it. But it's kind of crazy, especially since he departed from Sony last month amidst the Mute R. Kelly movement, and him coming out trying to survive the Surviving R. Kelly docuseries. So I guess he's pulling up his own money, his own resources to make it happen. R. Kelly still want to get his coins, man. Amidst the R. Kelly movement that you see happening in state to state, I'm pretty sure it's happening in Atlanta and in Chicago, and probably other places. But people are not having it with this dude, and I feel they have every reason to feel that way. But the men still want to survive. You're not trying to be starved out here, so. Man, stay tuned to see how this pans. So General Joseph Votel, he's actually over the U.S. General Command. The army, he has an army position, whatever, and his people over there in Syria, troops and all of that, U.S. troops, and he didn't even know that Trump had planned on withdrawing troops from Syria. Mind you, he's the main head honcho out there regarding the U.S. troops, and he didn't know until December. When Trump said it out loud, actually, that he wanted to withdraw troops from Syria, and he said that also that the fight against ISIS isn't over. All of this completely contradicts. It aligns with what the Senate Intelligence Committee had determined, but it goes against what Trump has been saying. So it's safe to say he don't really know what the fuck going on. So why would you even take anything that he said at the State of the Union serious? Yesterday, the Senate passed a very troubling bill. It's called the anti-BDS bill. It has anti-BDS provisions in it. BDS being boycott, divisions, and sanctions. But the bill allows for state and local governments to sanction U.S. companies for boycotting against Israel. Now, that's a very big deal. Now, let me tell you, Israel has actually been engaging in human atrocities and possibly violating national law through their treatment of Palestinians and their continuous bombing of them. Since March of last year, when Trump actually set up and decided to open the U.S. embassy over there, there have been almost 250 extrajudicial killings of Palestinians by Israeli police. So it's getting thousands of injuries, if that. So it's kind of crazy over there, and now that in turn will allow companies to fire employees who have something to say about it. David Dunlap is an ex-official for Koch Industries, the Koch company. For those who don't know, the Koch brothers, the multi-billionaire brothers that they actually run this company that is considered a chemical manufacturing company. They have a lot of subsidiaries under them, a lot of products, petroleum refineries, plastics, etc., things that cause a lot of pollution. Nevertheless, this official, David Dunlap, was hired this past fall to be in the Environmental Protection Agency, the government-run organization that's supposed to monitor the company's pollution output in the U.S. Nevertheless, it was found that he's actually over the, looking at the toxic chemicals that are found in our drinking water. So it's just an obvious conflict of interest in there, and Bishop Grady letting y'all know what the fuck going on. Yeah, I know my hair scruff McGruff, but I'm gonna get it together. But still gotta let y'all know what the fuck going on out here. You dig? So 2 days ago, New Jersey actually became the second state in the country to make it a law requiring that schools include LGBT contributions in their curriculum, whether it be economically, socially, politically, or just throughout history, period. So this is in response to, I guess, LGBT members feeling like they've been excluded from history, or their contributions have been excluded. I'm not sure how real that is. I mean, because I feel like every year we finding out somebody that, we thought was some pioneer of something may have, turns out to be gay. You know what I mean? From politicians and presidents to, civil rights leaders to whatever. So, but it's not LGBT history class being introduced to the curriculum, just to clear that up. Donald Trump actually ordered the Pentagon to send 3,750 troops to the border. And I believe he actually announced this at the State of the Union address the other night. That's it, man. He actually is aiming at, points where asylum seekers are apparently crossing. Like, for example, there are 250 troops being sent to a part in Texas where 1,800 asylum seekers were seen crossing into the United States. So, we'll see how this pans out, man. It's real shady down there, but stay tuned. War Green graduation. So, New Mexico's Democratic Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham, she actually has withdrawn the National Guard from the border, from the Mexico border, and she did so. The reason that the National Guard was there was because the previous governor, who just left his office obviously last year, these past midterms or whatever, was a Republican dude, and due to Trump and him, just trying to make everybody scared of what was going on at the border or whatever, they sent National Guard troops there. So obviously the withdrawal of these troops shows that there's no real threat there. You know what I'm saying? Not to mention during the Obama era, they already have like drones and all types of security and shit going all up and down the border. Trump might make a point to say that it's not cost efficient, but neither is a fucking war. So teachers in Chicago and in Oakland are actually protesting. They're protesting for higher pay and smaller class sizes. And, they want some restriction on these charter schools or whatever, and additional support staff. So that's what's going down. For those who don't remember, tens of thousands of teachers were protesting in L.A. Last month, actually, for similar to pretty much the same, situation. So, it's crazy because we're in a society, we want to give so much money to these athletes or whatever, but to the people that are actually supposed to ensure that we are doing well and growing into being responsible adults and intelligent creatures on this planet, they're, treated like shit. And we expect to actually move as a nation without that. That's why, our parent company, the graduation party, is what it is. And that's why I say at the end of all my videos, War Green. In Germany, they actually ordered Facebook to stop combining the information that they get across their social media platforms, the WhatsApps, the Instagrams, the Facebook messages, and doing that without voluntary consent. Apparently what they're doing is, as you could probably expect since they own all of these different companies, is that they're taking the data, and if you yourself have an account on all of these different platforms, they're consolidating all the information that they can collect from all of those different platforms into one thing, so where they just know that anything associated with this email account or with this username, and using that to essentially market to you. And I don't think this is anything surprising, but it's starting to become an antitrust issue, which people should have already acknowledged when motherfuckers was acquiring. I reported yesterday that R. Kelly actually was planning a tour for Australia, Sri Lanka, and New Zealand, I believe. And it turns out that he actually removed this tour from all his social media accounts, so you only know about it from select few outlets. But a lot of people in Australia, politicians, were publicly outcrying about this, saying that, they don't want him there, shouldn't he be in jail, and, basically trying to ban him from performing over there. So this is not new to Australia. I mean, they banned or kicked out Chris Brown. I forget which one they did, but, they've had issues like this with Chris Brown and Floyd Mayweather in the past. So, another black man who really is, got some fuck shit about him, it's seemingly so, they not really trying to have that happen. So, we'll see how this pans out. BB&T and SunTrust are two very large banks in the United States, and they're actually merging, in an all-stock deal that's actually valued at $66 billion. What does this mean? Well, this means that if you have stock in BB&T, then you're getting, some fraction of, for every share that you have in BB&T, you're getting some sort of fraction of a SunTrust stock. If you have SunTrust stock, you're getting some sort of fraction of a BB&T stock. The two companies themselves will be combining and forming a new headquarters that's supposed to be located in Charlotte, North Carolina, possibly. And also that they'll be serving together a combined 10 million U.S. households. So it's a pretty big deal. I guess more monopoly type shit happens. So Google actually has an app called Waze, and it actually WAZE, and it actually allows people to alert other people and mark cops' locations. Now, recently the NYPD actually sent them a cease and desist letter saying that they may be engaging in breaking the law by encouraging citizens to essentially let other people know about DUI checkpoints. But the arguments made against it are that they probably if they're really intoxicated, that shit won't matter anyway. They're probably too intoxicated to really use it to that level of taking an advantage. And nevertheless, it's probably not breaking the law. So Google don't look like they're gonna back down. But to all my people that's on the run or that's really trying to move and shake and get up out of here, Google Waze, that might be where it's at. But you never know when they're gonna leak that information. You dig? So the Afghanistan politicians and the Taliban are actually having peace talks, which are apparently orchestrated by the United States, troops and our foreign officials and all of that or whatever. Nevertheless, the Taliban is saying that we actually agreed to cut our troop presence in half, but there's no timeline for this shit. And as I reported yesterday, the Taliban just swooped in and killed like 50 people in some over this past weekend or whatever, 50 Afghans. So I don't know what type of games that they're playing, but it seems like it's just more political fodder, if you will. You know what I'm saying? Just more bullshit for y'all to talk about, more theater. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to Cynthia McKinney, because she's warned us about shit like this regularly. You know what I mean? We're already in 18-year war with Afghanistan, so we'll see what happens. NASA and the NOAA, that is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association, and NASA, y'all kind of already know, that's the Outer Space Organization, right? They actually said that 2018 was the hottest year in recorded history. That goes back to the past century and a half. And when they say the hottest, we're talking about global temperatures, averaging them out and, determining the average temperature this year was such and such. And this is continuing the trend because the last 5 years have been successively hotter and are the hottest years on record. And the only time it's been, and you're talking about getting 4 to 5 degrees hotter globally every year. So it is, the last time scientists say they've seen this has been millions of years ago when they had forests all the way out to the Arctic. So obviously, climate change and global warming and pollution is are seen as the culprit. So, Virginia Attorney General Mark Herring, more news in Virginia politics. This guy actually also admitted, just like the Virginia governor, that he too wore blackface in the 80s. So in 1980, apparently while he was an undergrad at UVA, that's the University of Virginia for those who don't know, he apparently wore blackface. He admitted it, and then as a result, he resigned from his position as the Democratic Attorney General Association co-chair. And the crazy thing is what's with all these white motherfuckers thinking it was okay to wear blackface in as late as the 80s? I mean, it's not surprising to me personally, but it's surprising on some level. It's just like, what the fuck is y'all doing? And why y'all trying to act like this is why people... So Justin Fairfax, the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, who's looked at to succeed the current Democratic Virginia Governor, Ralph Northam, who everyone wants to resign because there were photos of him from 1984 that surfaced of him in blackface next to some dude in a Ku Klux Klan hood. Some racist fuck shit. But nevertheless, in Justin Fairfax being about to succeed, allegation came out of nowhere, apparently, of him this past weekend that he sexually assaulted this woman. Now, the woman actually revealed herself yesterday. I'm not gonna put her name out there, but she's a black woman. She's a PhD, and the timing just seems kind of funny. But even funnier, she said that he forced her to perform oral sex on him in a hotel in 2014. He claims it was consensual. He feels like it's out of nowhere. Sounds kind of fishy, but are these Republican games or is this like the real? We'll see what happens. Stay tuned. Support of the New World Order, Bishop Grady, let y'all know what the fuck going on for this Black Fox News report and a little bit of black history for y'all. Rest in peace to Frank Robinson, man. So now, let me tell y'all, this is actually the he was the first African American Major League Baseball manager when he managed the Indians back in 76 to 77, one of those years. And also, as he was an outstanding player, this is a Hall of Fame guy. He was the only player, still to this day, the only player to win an MVP in the American League and an MVP in the National League. He's 10th on the all-time home runs list. I think he's up there in like the 500s, 580 something maybe. Nevertheless, outstanding dude. And, most people, don't even know about him. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't have known about him until this day. So, and that's the beauty of Black History Month, which I'm going to get to probably this weekend with a editor's note. But nevertheless, y'all stay up, man. War, green, and graduation. So there's a plane that's been leaving Miami and going into Valencia, Venezuela, Venezuela's third largest city. This Boeing 767 was found having all sorts of like weapons, ammunition, artillery, or whatever. The officials over there are suspecting, in Bolivia and in Venezuela, suspecting that this was going to end up in terrorist and criminal hands, essentially, or whatever. But that's the language they're using because pretty much anything that goes against the establishment over there, just like over here, whatever is seen as criminal or terroristic. Nevertheless, that is very alarming. Even more alarming is that ever since the president of Venezuela was sworn in, Nicolas Maduro, this is early January, the plane has been seen to have taken 40 round-trip flights from Miami to parts of Venezuela or Colombia. So, a real fishy shit going on. Rest in peace to Richard Washington. This was a 64-year-old man that was in a prison in Arizona. And news got out that he died, but back in December, he was filing documents basically saying that the prison officials were trying to kill him by neglecting to give him the medical treatment that he needed. I mean, the man had hypertension, the man had hepatitis C, the man had diabetes, he needed all types of medical help, and they were refusing him help, essentially. So, it's fucked up. It shows that they don't value prisoners, never mind that there's so many non-violent offenders and falsely accused prisoners. Nevertheless, they denied this man humanity, and now he's fucking dead. So, shame on anybody involved in the prison system as a whole. It's fucked up. War, green, and graduation. Stay tuned. So in Peru, actually, a country that's in South America, surrounded by Ecuador, Brazil, and Bolivia, is actually undergoing a ridiculous gold rush, but it's damaging the forest around there. I mean, the lands and the people actually. This gold rush last year, for example, was accounted for the deforestation of almost 23,000 acres. That's almost the equivalent of 34,000 football fields. Now, this is, these are record level numbers regarding mining. And the thing about it is a lot of the gold, these aren't in mounds and rocks and all of that. It's found in like particles that's mixed in with, the dirt and the dust that's around. So there's a mercury extraction method that's used, therefore leaving mercury to contaminate the land and, the animals, plants, and the people, unfortunately. So this is where the power of love is overcome by the love of power. So the Supreme Court actually ruled 5-4 in temporarily blocking this Louisiana anti-abortion law, which required abortion performers, those doctors in their clinics, to be within 30 miles of a hospital that actually has granted them the privileges to do so. Now, on one level, it was seen as, protecting people from, just rogue doctors who may not have the qualifications from performing abortions, possibly harming women and killing aborted fetuses that improperly or whatever. But honestly, it was just a complete hindrance for a lot of doctors who had the qualifications. May not be within 30 miles of a hospital, requiring women to, go all sorts of leaps and bounds just to get an abortion, possibly even leave the state. So it's seen as a big win for the pro. New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the hailer from the Bronx, youngest person to ever be in Congress, she teamed up with Massachusetts Senator Ed Markey, and they introduced formally the Green New Deal. It's been talked about underground for a minute, but it's designed to reduce U.S. greenhouse gas emissions, to a net of 0 in 10 years. That is very ambitious, especially considering that since 1990, our greenhouse gas emissions, or carbon dioxide emissions, that's the main thing, have teetered between 6 and 8 billion metric tons per year. So the way to do this would be to, basically make all of our energy output done with renewable energy. We're talking wind turbines, we're talking solar energy, stuff like that. And also to plant trees and, actually, make our air cleaner and reduce pollution. So let's see what happens. The world's richest man, Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos, is publicly accusing the National Enquirer of blackmail and extortion. And here's why. So back in January around 10th, they released some photos and text messages that were back and forth between him and this other hot Somali that actually worked at, So You Think You Could Dance, and she was a married woman, he's a married man himself, even though he had publicly announced that he was divorcing his shorty at the time. Nevertheless, he is wondering how the hell did they get access to these text messages and these pictures. So he thinks that they actually used the government entity, because the top editor for the National Enquirer is actually buddies with Trump. And as you know, Trump does not like the Washington Post, them being a liberal entity, nor does he like Jeff Bezos, because U.S. intelligence actually got a recording of Saudi Arabia Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman saying back in September 2017 that he wanted a bullet in Jamal Khashoggi. Jamal Khashoggi was a writer for the Washington Post. He was Saudi Arabia, and he was exiled from there. And around this time of the recording, he was actually writing some unflattering articles about Saudi Arabia, most likely having to deal with the human rights abuses against the Yemeni people and against their own people. He wanted him dead. And then next thing you know, 13 months later, last year, if you remember, this man was actually chopped up in Saudi consulate when he went to Istanbul, Turkey. So, very dangerous shit going on. It's dangerous for me to even talk about it, but gotta let the people know what the fuck going on. Dude.